You know that feeling when you finish a game and wonder, where was the character seasoning? Some games go for realistic graphics but forget about art design, and without it, they age like milk. Others play it safe with their mechanics, but halfway through it gets repetitive. And it makes me wonder, did the devs really mean to do it that way? But when a game is written, looks, and plays like it was made with passion, you can just feel it. Today I'm sharing 10 games that gave me that feeling in no particular order. Number 1. Where some games play it safe, Sunset Overdrive was made to be loud, messy, and alive. It would be a crime not to mention it here. Spider-Man PS4 owes this game a thank you card and some flowers. Just look at the screen. The UI isn't just there, it's smashed into the corners of it. The sky moves like a living painting. The pop-ups, tips, and gameplay indicators also look sketched by hand, full of charm. In Sunset Overdrive, you can run on walls, grind on rails, street power lines, dash across water, and pull off stunts at every turn. Tricks like grinding, bouncing off cars, air dashing stacks your style meter, pushing you to stay in constant motion while chaos explodes all around you. And the humor? It's like the early Ratchet & Clank games, but completely unfiltered thanks to the game's M rating. Even respawning is fun. Your animations are random. Sometimes you crash land out of a spaceship, claw your way out of the ground like a zombie, or teleport in with a portal gun. Everything about this game just screams style. Even though Sunset is technically an apocalyptic game, it rarely takes itself seriously. Your guide? He's literally called the announcer, and your character is fully aware of him. You're referred to as player, constantly breaking the fourth wall by pointing out HUD elements and character icons like it's all just a big joke. The world is packed with collectibles, hanging sneakers, TP'd street lamps, fizzy balloons, all sprinkled around the city. And the weapons are creative too. You've got the high fidelity, which shoots records that ricochet on impact, or the absolutely ridiculous flaming compensator. Even the enemies are goofy. When poppers explode, exaggerated comic book text blasts up on the screen. To mix it up even more, the game throws in base defense missions where you can set up bots and traps to defend against waves of enemies. There wasn't a lot of love during the launch window of the Xbox One, and for good reason, but I always used to say, man, that game looks awesome. Next up is Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. This game got seriously cheated because people lumped it in with the lackluster Marvel's Avengers game, and honestly, they don't even belong in the same conversation. Even though both games slap the Marvel name on the box, they don't share a universe. They don't even share the same developers. In Guardians, you only control one character, Star-Lord. The rest of the crew, you command them through a series of button prompts, making it feel like you're leading the team instead of swapping between them. It's a completely different experience. As you fight, each Guardian charges up a special move that can deal serious damage. And then there's the huddle up option, where you rally the whole team for a huge power boost. Early on, when you huddle, teammates actually blame each other for losing, but as the leader, you can refocus them and shift their energy back towards beating the real enemy. I love these moments. It added a sense of realness between the characters. It's definitely something people would do in real life. That said, some of the dialogue during huddles can get a bit repetitive over time. Speaking of repetition, the combat can feel a little shallow at points. It's not super in-depth in terms of button inputs outside of basic countering and using elemental attacks. But thankfully, each character has a skill tree to expand their abilities and give the fights some extra variety. This game also has some dialogue options, making many conversations more interactive. One thing I really loved is how as you progress, you can find collectibles that reveal more backstory for each character. It builds your bond with the team and even makes them better in combat, and expands dialogue. A standout for me was Drax. This game gives him way more depth than you'd expect, and his story really gets a chance to shine. You can also unlock outfits tied to the characters' pasts, like the gear Rocket and Groot wore during the war, which brings their stories more to life. If you've been on the fence about picking up this game, do it. It's seriously a hidden gem that more people need to experience. Third on the list is Star Wars: The Force Unleashed. This one originally dropped way back during the PS2 era. but it also got released on PS3, Xbox 360, and PC. And if you remember those days, it wasn't uncommon for games to launch across multiple platforms with completely different versions. What you're seeing right now is the Nintendo Switch version, which shadow dropped in 2022. Every couple of years I find myself thinking about this game again. The story can be hilarious at times. And the gameplay, it's so fun. The pacing is just right. You can probably knock it out in a weekend or less. You play as Starkiller, Darth Vader's secret apprentice, tasked with, well, how did he put it?
I bring Darth Vader's enemies to justice.
Yeah, that. You travel to all kinds of planets and iconic locations depending on what version you're playing on. In the PC version, which is basically the Xbox 360 and PS3 one, you can even head to Tatooine for a fun mission. But let's talk about the opening, because this game pulls a genius move right out of the gate. You get to play as Darth Vader, fully maxed out on force powers, health, combos. You feel unstoppable. Force pushing enemies, sending their ragdolling bodies flying through the air, and casually walking past Wookiees while choking them out with Vader's signature force grip. It's just so satisfying. Stormtroopers and Wookiees feel like child's play to you, until you finally face off against a Jedi at the end of the mission. This is the perfect way to hook you in and make you feel the full power of the dark side. If I had to describe how powerful this game makes you feel, I'd say it's maybe 2 or 3 notches below the old Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon. Even when you're playing a Starkiller, who's obviously not as strong as Darth Vader, mowing down stormtroopers or any non-force user feels like a casual stroll through the park. Well, at least in the beginning of the game. But somehow, it never gets boring. You can lift almost any object or enemy with the Force and fling them in any direction, and throwing your lightsaber at enemies while they're suspended in the air never gets old. Can't forget Force Lightning either, which can stun multiple enemies. One of my favorite things to do is grabbing an enemy and just tossing them through windows into space. That also never gets old. The game auto-locks onto enemies for you after you throw someone or something, and somehow it almost always lands, even if you throw it behind you without the camera turned. Now, this could be a version depending thing. I think it's more accurate on PC, but it shocks me every time. And the worlds look great. I'm a sucker for Star Wars planets. I think the art design is always hidden. And the creatures. The planets or cities always feel like a character in Star Wars to me. Now, the Switch port is definitely shorter than the PC version, with tighter, more condensed levels. But I prefer the PC's combat way more. Both versions are fun, don't get me wrong, but the PC's combos just click with me better, like being able to weave Force Lightning into your lightsaber combos. I also prefer the Force controls on the PC for lifting an object. Both versions offer their own unique changes. The fourth game on this list is something special. Like Guardians, it got absolutely cheated at launch, but honestly, this was even worse. This was akin to the ending of Red Dead Redemption. Just brutal. How, you ask? For some insane reason, EA decided to launch this game right alongside their own flagship title, Battlefield 1, and right next to the juggernaut that was Call of Duty in 2016. That's right, I'm talking about Titanfall 2, the people's champ. Titanfall was another game I spotted during the early Xbox One days and immediately thought, wow, that looks really fun. But it wouldn't be long before its sequel dropped for all platforms just 2 years later. I soaked up every minute of its open beta. The cash deposit game mode was great, and when it finally launched, I was hyped to dive into the story. The campaign does a great job from the start, showing just how deadly these towering titans really are. Life can be snuffed out in an instant. BT can switch between multiple Titan loadouts mid-mission, letting you change up your strategy depending on the fight. Meanwhile, Cooper's mobility with wall running and double jumping keeps every encounter fast and exciting. You can feel the bond between BT and Cooper grow as the story moves forward. It's one of the highlights of the whole game. And when you play the mission Effect and Cause, man, you're putting your skills to the test. It's easily one of the most unforgettable missions in any FPS. Cooper's stealth ability gives you the power to start fights on your terms, but that's just a small taste of what the game's abilities has to offer. Multiplayer takes it to a whole other level. You've got abilities like Phase Shift to teleport around the battlefield, Pulse Blade to expose enemies with sonar, and the grapple hook to quickly scale buildings or hop into your Titan with speed. And speaking of Titans, multiplayer gives you access to all the Titan loadouts. I love how Scorch can trap enemies in place with fire, Ronin can phase shift to quickly close gaps, North Star can dominate from a distance, and Legion brings that heavy, focused firepower when you need to melt everything in your way. And that's without even getting into the type of guns the game has. Frontier Defense, the game's wave-based co-op mode, gave my friends and I hours of fun. It's the kind of multiplayer that just keeps pulling you back in. And I think I speak for everyone when I say we want Titanfall 3. Let's go, EA! The fifth game on the list is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Every time I see this game, I get a burst of excitement and pure joy. The opening cinematic nails it with this crisp retro filter, and the colors just pop off the screen, y'all. The sky alone in some of the frames has that perfect tone. It reminds me a lot of Batman the Animated Series. I could watch a whole show animated like this and be happy. And seeing each character get their own moment to shine just cranks up the hype machine before you even hit the start button. You can play with up to 6 people locally depending on your platform, and thankfully it's got full online co-op, which is a must in today's world. I can't tell you how many beat 'em up games I skipped over just because they didn't have online co-op for some bizarre reason. When you start up the game, you're greeted with these panning frames with text, but the TV screen still emits light, and the newscaster's mouth moves as the text scrolls. It's very intentional. I love these little details. The game is clearly retro inspired, but everything looks so clean. And the music, it's fast, energetic, but it has depth as well. I love how the robot ninjas are doing all these silly little things, like cooking and working out as you make your way through the first level. And when you grab one of them, if you input the direction just right, you can throw them straight at the center of the screen. When you hit the map for level selection, the beat is nice, and you can see who's playing in the top right corner with a little wink. And of course, there's the iconic turtle van. One of the levels has these guys straight up jacking your ride's tires. I couldn't help but laugh. Combat in this game is easy to pick up, as you'd expect from a beat 'em up. You've got this special meter that fills up as you dish out damage, and you can even refill it via pressing a button. Plus, there's a unique animation depending on who you're playing as. Now, while the combat is easy to get into, don't get too comfortable, because as you can see, multiple enemies will gang up on you. Of course, if you've got a friend playing alongside you, that's much less of an issue. And just when you think you're cruising through the first level, enemies with shields start showing up. The game means business, man. I love how the enemies use the environment to their advantage. In one level, you can see them changing a tire, and then they start throwing tire irons at you. After that, they even hop in cars and try to run you over, but ultimately just end up hitting each other. Each level has its own challenges to complete, and sometimes you'll even get to save someone in need of help. Levels usually take about 5 minutes to complete, but that all depends on your skills. The game is pretty short overall. You can easily finish it in under 4 hours. Shredder's Revenge is another hidden gem. Check it out. The sixth game on this list is Hi-Fi Rush. There's a lot of love for Xbox in this video, which wasn't planned, but hey, I'm here for it. This game looks like it was made at Cartoon Network, with its comic shading, bold black lines, and anime-style cutscenes thrown in. I could easily watch a whole show in this style too. So the main story message didn't exactly blow me away. The whole corporations are evil thing is nothing new, but the characters, they were great, with some twists here and there. Oh, and of course the power of friendship. The game is packed with humor.
Rockstar.
Future Rockstar.
Every NPC you meet has silly dialogue, and some have their own backstories. You'll definitely notice the game's unique NPC style, like when you first meet the guidebot who teaches you the controls. I usually skipped him because he either tried to teach me something I just learned, or he just make me feel uncomfortable. Chai and Peppermint's interactions are very entertaining to watch. As you meet more of the game's cast, it's fun to see how their dynamics evolve. The way they push themselves can be really heartwarming. Speaking of characters, many of them can join you in combat, which really makes them a part of the action as you play. Love it when games do that. In fact, sometimes you'll need their specific moves to progress through levels or unlock hidden rooms. And when it comes to fighting, you'll need their help to take down certain enemies. This game throws a ton of opponents at you, so their support is crucial in general. Chai's need to stay on beat can be frustrating at first while you're learning the pacing mid-fight. Honestly, it never really gets easier, since the game keeps throwing tougher enemies your way while you're still staying on rhythm. I decided to play the game on hard mode. For some reason, I don't really recommend that unless you're really looking for a challenge from the start. It gets pretty tough, especially with certain enemies, because on hard mode, the timing windows are much tighter. If you're not focused, you're definitely going to pay for it. Speaking of windows and overall flow, I love the game's DMC-like rating system. The combos are so satisfying to pull off, and as you upgrade Chai, everything just starts to click. Chai also has super moves, and the game is generous with how often you can use them. You can switch up your moves regularly, and there are even super moves where your friends can join in on the action. This is one of those kind of games where you can start a combo on the ground and end it in the air. I love when games have that flow. It can feel like a dance at times. The boss fights are great with different phases that keep you on your toes. But be warned, they do have QTEs, like most mini bosses in the game. If you're playing on normal difficulty though, it shouldn't be too hard. Hi-Fi Rush just oozes style. Every fight has comic book style letters popping up in flashes of sound waves. Plus the bosses turn these up to 11. The characters are always talking to you while you play, but it never gets annoying. You know, like some games, it's just part of the charm. Nowadays, Hi-Fi Rush is even on PlayStation, so if you haven't, check it out. Number 7 is Sleeping Dogs. This game originally dropped during the 360 and PS3 generation. Man, what a time that was. The opening of this game really sets the tone for how intense things can get. You play as Wei Shen, an undercover cop tasked with infiltrating the Sun On Yee triad. Wei's confident though, because he grew up with these guys, so getting in feels almost too easy. But as you dive deeper, you quickly learn that nothing in Sleeping Dogs comes easy. The campaign is something special, and I don't want to spoil too much of it. You've got to experience it for yourself. Characters in Sleeping Dogs can grow on you fast, with Jackie being the first since you spend so much time with him early on. Plus, he's Wei's oldest friend. As Jackie reintroduces Wei to old spots and shows him how work gets done, you as the player get a glimpse of just how beautiful Hong Kong can be. This was a breath of fresh air, since most popular open world action games of the time were set in New York, Los Angeles, or some future version of them, with the occasional post-apocalyptic setting. Getting to experience Hong Kong was something new and exciting. Throughout Sleeping Dogs, you'll switch between missions for the Triad and the police, which helps keep the pacing fresh by breaking up the gameplay. Speaking of gameplay, there's a ton to do in the city. The game has this thing called Face, which is essentially a leveling system that tracks the favors you can do for people around Hong Kong. You can also take part in races, drug busts, dating, karaoke, stunt driving, and even collect jade statues, just to name a few. And as you collect these statues, you unlock new fighting moves, making your character all the more powerful. Combat in Sleeping Dogs is incredibly satisfying. It borrows the counter mechanic from the Arkham games, but ultimately makes the combat its own. You see this early on when you and Jackie get into some trouble, where chaining combos feels smooth and powerful. When you grab enemies, you can either finish them off or run them into walls. What really sets this apart is the ability to interact with the nearby objects, bringing the environment into part of the fight. You can also pick up enemies' weapons or learn to disarm them as you level up. Combat even spills over into driving, where you can ram into enemy drivers, use your car door as a weapon, or activate these slick, slow-mo sections. Leveling up Wei is always a blast because you get to unlock and try out so many new martial art moves. I also want to quickly mention that Sleeping Dogs has 3 DLCs. One of them lets you fight in a Bruce Lee style tournament on an island. This wave-based DLC is a ton of fun, but it gets pretty tough as you progress. Consider yourself warned. Number 8 is Psychonauts 2. The game gives off major Cartoon Network vibes. Look y'all, I really didn't plan this, but I'm definitely here for it. Of course, with the 2 in the name, this is a sequel, so I highly recommend playing the first one. You play as Rasputin, or Raz for short, a young psychonaut in training. The Psychonauts are an elite international task force using their psych powers to stop those who abuse their abilities for evil. Raz and the team are tasked with uncovering who helped Lobato kidnap Truman, Lily's dad. After diving into Lobato's mind, they discover two mysterious figures, one of which turns out to be Maligula. But that only brings about more questions since she's been toast for 20 years thanks to Ford. To make matters even worse, Raz gets demoted to intern as soon as he enters the Psychonauts headquarters, and is reassigned to the mailroom of all places. What's even more interesting this time around is Raz's family, who plays a bigger role in the story. They visit him at the Psychonauts HQ to show support for following his dream, even though many of them don't agree with the path he's chosen. It's a nice touch that adds depth to the characters and to Raz's journey. While playing Psychonauts 2, you'll dive into the minds of many characters, revealing some of the most creatively designed levels I've seen in years. You'll explore everything from gum-covered walls with teeth for zippers to a food-themed TV game show, where each dish is named after past events, tying everything together beautifully. Even the enemies are inspired by emotional reactions or random thoughts, like sensors, regrets, bad ideas, and panic attacks. These enemies are created by Raz's thoughts and actions while inside someone's mind. They literally appear as a direct result of the impact Raz has on others, or the mental state of whoever's mind you're in, which makes the enemy encounters feel personal and unique compared to other games. As you explore each level, you'll uncover memory vaults that reveal past events tied to the person whose mind you're in. These memories help explain their current mental state, repressed feelings, or even their origin story. The game is packed with collectibles like golden nuggets and half-a-mind fragments, but the most common are random thoughts. Everything you find feels tied into the world, adding depth and making each discovery feel rewarding. Gameplay is loaded with options, from Psyblast and telekinesis to pyrokinesis, mental connection, and levitation. Many of these abilities are also perfect for combat, as you'd expect, and the platforming really helps with the game's pacing. Raz has a wide array of upgrades that allow you to customize and improve your playstyle. Among all the games I've played over the past 2 decades, Psychonauts 2 truly stands out. The 9th game on this list is Dishonored. This game was actually one of the last gems for the PS3 and Xbox 3 era, but it wouldn't be long for a definitive edition of the game to be released for the next consoles. Dishonored's story is pretty straightforward. Something wild happens that you can kinda see coming, and you're blamed for it ultimately dishonoring you. Then you spend the rest of the game working as an assassin to clear your name. You play as Corvo, a bodyguard to Empress Jasmine Coldwind of Dunwall. Now some of you might think, Deebs, come on, this game is old, just spoil the story. Well, to you I say don't underestimate the Call of Duty, 2K, and Nintendo heads that are finally starting to branch out decades later. Dishonored often feels like you're playing through a living painting. Released in 2012, it still holds up remarkably well. Sure, if you stare long enough, some elements might look dated, but the game's art direction is so on point that it gives the world a timeless feel. The lighting in Dishonored is exceptional, setting the perfect atmosphere wherever you go. Dunwall, the city where the game takes place, is packed with hidden alleyways, open windows begging to be explored, and multiple districts to navigate as you progress. The level design is very impressive. There's so much verticality that it really allows you to approach every situation your own way. And trust me, you'll need that flexibility when it comes to combat. Dishonored usually leans into stealth, but you can definitely go full berserk with sword clashes and gunfire if that's your style. Corvo is equipped with a variety of tools, including a retractable sword, pistol, and a one-handed crossbow. Early on, Corvo gains new powers to play with. At first, Blink is just a handy platforming tool, but as you progress, you'll discover creative ways to use it for stealthy assassinations. You'll also unlock Dark Vision, which I'm sure as you guessed lets you see in the dark, and through walls. Though I tend to avoid using this type of game mechanic nowadays since it makes games super easy. And it's in like every game. There's also Devouring Swarm, where you can summon rats to assist you in battle. Oh that's right, the rats. There's this whole rat plague that's wreaking havoc in Dunwall. These little monsters can devour an entire body in seconds, leaving behind no bones or any trace. They're both terrifying and incredibly useful given how dangerous they are. Dishonored also features multiple choice decisions that actually impact the story and the levels you're playing through. Unlike some games out in these streets, these choices feel meaningful. Speaking of choices, this is the perfect time to throw Dishonored 2 into the mix as another choice for you. Yep, you heard right, we're talking 11 games now. Dishonored 2 mirrors the first game in many ways, but this time you can play as Corvo, or, well, let's just call her E. Because spoils? When I played, I chose E, and made the decision to go for a no-kill run. It was definitely challenging, but in the best way possible. Sneaking around, never getting caught, and sleep choking enemies instead of killing them was a lot of fun. I mean, every game these days has you taking out people, so why not switch it up? Plus, E has her own unique powers that Corvo doesn't, like Domino, which links targets together so if one falls unconscious, or worse, they all do. It quickly became my most used power and saved me from getting caught more times than I can count. Gameplay can feel fresh thanks to new abilities, and the levels in Dishonored 2 are significantly larger with more depth than in the first game. Visually, it's also a major step up. I highly recommend both Dishonored 1 and 2. They're absolutely worth your time. The 10th and final game on this list, or 11th if you've been watching the whole video, is The Outer Worlds. I had tried getting into the Fallout games a few times, but for some reason they never really stuck with me. Then I saw the trailer for The Outer Worlds, and it immediately piqued my curiosity. Funny enough, the devs behind Fallout New Vegas were the ones making this game, and considering how people never shut up about New Vegas, I was feeling hopeful. In The Outer Worlds, you craft your own character from the ground up. Just be warned, customizing your appearance is pointless since the game is played entirely in first person. Your character starts off in a hibernation chamber aboard the Hope, a colony ship lost in deep space. Halcyon, a corporation that owns large areas of outer space, was supposed to bring you and the other colonists to a bright new future after just 10 years of cryosleep. Sounds familiar, right? Instead, 70 years have passed, and the board running Halcyon has done absolutely nothing to fix the situation. You're eventually rescued by Phineas Wells, a wanted fugitive by Halcyon for crimes against the colony. And don't worry, while I've already shared my feelings about corporations and games during the Hi-Fi Rush section, The Outer Worlds handles the theme with a lot more class, trust me. From there, you're tasked with commandeering a new ship and gathering more of Phineas's special chemicals, crucial for rescuing the rest of the colonists still frozen aboard the Hope. Turns out, spending 70 years in suspended animation has some serious cellular side effects that need mending. Phineas sends you to the Emerald Vale, where you're supposed to meet a smuggler named Hawthorne, who's meant to help you get started in the town of Edgewater. Let's just say things don't exactly go according to plan. Edgewater is the first of many towns you'll explore across the game's worlds, and it's home to a handful of interesting characters like Silas, Vicar Max, Conrad, Reed Thompson, and Parvati, plus plenty of hostile marauders lurking around the outskirts. The great news? You found yourself a ship. The lesser great news, it needs a new power regulator before it's ready for space travel. As you talk to the townspeople, you'll uncover a few different ways to track down a replacement. But with The Outer Worlds being a story-rich RPG, how you choose to secure that power regulator might not make everyone happy, since, as I'm sure you guessed, it's some important hardware. The planet Edgewater sits on is very beautiful, filled with towering natural stone formations that stretch toward the sky. Of course, the wilderness is teeming with hostile creatures ready to ruin your day. The sky itself is a standout, constantly glowing with an aurora-like shimmer, and massive planets looming overhead in the skybox. It was giving me major Star Wars vibes with multiple suns or like planets. Early in the game, you'll notice some hibernation complications, which unlocks your ability to use tactical time dilation, a handy mechanic that lets you slow down time and aim more precisely. Sounds familiar, right? The Outer Worlds offers a wide range of perks and several upgradable skills to shape your character however you like. You'll also recruit companions throughout your journey, with Parvati being the first you meet. She actively contributes during conversations with NPCs, often chiming in with insights or personal connections that add depth to interactions. She'll even interject mid-conversation, offering advice or facts you wouldn't have otherwise known. I loved these moments because she never felt like a mute sidekick just tagging along for fights, nor did she constantly babble in your ear while you explored. And she's just the beginning. Each companion you meet has their own personality and opinions. You can also customize your companion's armor, which is great because you actually get to see the result of your efforts. There are even special combo finishers you can unlock for them, making your crew feel even more connected to the world and your journey. Circling back to that story-rich RPG point I mentioned earlier, The Outer Worlds is packed with branching dialogue interactions where you can leverage traits like Medic, Persuade, Lie, and of course Attack, just to name a few. However, depending on your skill level, some options like Persuade might require you to be at a level 15 or higher. For my playthrough, I decided to lie at every possible opportunity. It became a game within a game. Getting myself into trouble, then lying my way out of it. I discovered that I could dodge entire firefights just by spinning the right story, but I kept pushing to see how far I could take it. I went from helping people to betraying them to basically triple agent, all while having the time of my life. I'll never forget one moment when I got caught in a restricted area. I thought I was toast, but I laughed my cheeks off, y'all, and walked out without a scratch on me. The grin on my face was ridiculous, because if that lie hadn't worked, I would have been blown to bits. What I've been trying to say is, your choices actually matter in the Outer Worlds, unlike other games that just give you the illusion of choice. Now, to be fair, the gunplay is just fine. It doesn't feel the best, but it absolutely gets the job done. You'll have a solid selection of weapons to choose from, and you can even modify them with elemental effects if you want to mix things up. The map sizes are another win. Each open area feels just right in scale. They're big enough to explore and discover secrets, but not so massive that they feel empty or overwhelming. I would love to see future games take notes from the Outer Worlds, and I don't say that lightly. Judgment is another one I think future games should take notes on. Its mechanics, storytelling, and interactive world stands out. I did a whole video on it for you. Check it out. Have you played any of the games on this list? If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. And if there are any games you think should have made the list, let me know those too. And as always, take care.